Hello everyone, my name is Alexandra, also known as Chaos Child, and in today's tutorial I will be teaching you how to render polished metal. I am using a work already in progress. In particular, I am borrowing this gentleman's shoulder pad. The image that I am working on has been scanned at 900 dpi, and I am using a tablet pen to color it. You can use a mouse to do this too, but it will look slightly different as the pen offers pressure sensitivity. What I have already done is I have laid down underneath these lines a light gray. You can render metal in any color, but for simplicity's sake today, I'm just going to use the gray. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to my layers and I'm going to lock the pixels on the layer that the metal is on. By locking the pixels, what I've done is I have locked the transparent pixels, meaning no matter how much I try, I can't draw on top of it. But I can draw on top of the color I've already put down. What I am going to use first is I am going to use this hard brush here. I have my brush set to multiply and my opacity to 100%. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay down some shadows on these edges here. This helps to pull out the extremes of metal. Usually if there isn't any light on it, it will make itself almost completely dark. Metal is very fickle about light, which is the secret to this, is that if there is a single pinprick of light, even in a darkest space, it will catch that light. And if there is no light, it will plunge itself almost completely dark. It's okay to go over this a couple of times if you want to push something darker. If you go back when you're done and you look at it and you say, oh, this isn't bright enough, this isn't dark enough, you can always push up the brights, you can always bring down the darks if you need to. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to move to a larger, fuzzier brush. My opacity is still at 100%. You'll generally want to keep it at 100% for metal. And I'm going to lay down just a general gist of where the shadows are going to be. And as this is a curved piece of metal, I'm going to follow the shape. I'm going to lay a little bit down here and a little bit up here. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to change the size of my brush. I'm going to move it down just a little bit, and I'm going to compress the shape to more of an oval. I find it easier to handle. You can always stick with a circular brush if you'd like. And I'm going to follow this curve again, pushing up a darker spot, and then a little bit more along the bottom. As with many techniques, it's all about layering. It's all about increasing the size and decreasing the size of your brush periodically and going over shapes again, which adds a little bit more of a natural texture to it. In the case of metal, it's about creating absolute darks. Because with polished metal, again, it really likes to cling to darks and it really likes to push up whites. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to move to a less fuzzier brush, a harder brush. It is called the soft round brush. And I'm going to select a rather small size. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some dark highlights. It's not really a technical term, it's just what I like to call it. And I'm going to go over this multiply again and again until it looks almost black. And I'm going to pay special attention to edges. I'm going to pay special attention to shape. What I'm going to do with these is I'm going to give my highlights a place to cling to. I'm going to follow each of these edges. And I'm going to break the shapes up just a little bit to add a bit more fluidity to my metal. That is generally the key to this, is your edges. That will be the place where you have the brightest of your lights. It's also interesting to note that the light will follow all the way down an edge, even to the darkest place, although it will fade out slightly. Let's see now. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to very quickly add a little bit of a shadow under here, since these two pieces of metal are overlapping, and my light is up over here in this corner, as you can see by the highlights in his eyes. So it's not quite going to reach right here. Now that I've pressed down my absolute darks, I'm going to start my highlights. I'm going to go and I'm going to select a small fuzzy brush. I'm going to switch my brush type to vivid light, and I'm going to flip my color to white. And without pressing down too hard on my brush, I'm going to very carefully follow the lip of this metal all the way down to the bottom for each and every piece. As I said before, with polished metal, light will hit an edge and it will follow it as far down as it can. And the next thing I'm going to do is ultimately the secret to this, is you place your brightest brights next to your darkest darks. I'm going to follow the little lines I gave myself, and I'm going to scatter some highlights all the way down, making sure to put them right next to my darks. As you can see, this already is making it look like highly rendered, highly polished metal, simply because I have a bright next to a dark. Light will do that, and shadow will do that on metal. You can even, if you want to, render other shapes in here. Metal tends to cling to the color that it is unless the colored object is very close to it or very bright and casting a colored light on it. If I wanted to, and you can do this at any time, I could go back, select my multiply, and render this arrow shaft up above the metal, paying special attention to the shape that I'm rendering, but also following the shape of the metal. You have it wiggle slightly because it's not quite in focus. I could even, if I wanted to, render the line of his jaw, although looking at it I think it's too far away, so I'm not going to put it there. I'm going to flip back to my white and back to my vivid light, and I'm going to add a highlight along the edge of that as well. It's also okay if you want to place highlights in seemingly random places. As I've stated repeatedly by this point, metal loves light, and it will grab it from anywhere. Lastly, I'm going to return to my large fuzzy brush. I'm going to compress it ever so slightly. And I'm going to turn my opacity down to about 50%. And very lightly, I'm going to go along the edges, much like I did with the darks, only in reverse. And change your shape, and go along here as well, giving just a hint of brightness to the very edges of our shadows. And then finally, I'm going to yank it back up to 100%. I'm going to very, very lightly just flick it along these edges, which adds a more chaotic, more natural looking bloom of light. And there you have it. We've successfully rendered a polished metal shoulder pad. I hope that you found this tutorial helpful, and I hope to see you next time. Thank you! Like what you see? Then please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you!